today I'm going to be talking about the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Sugar Man. For those of you who aren't familiar with the character, he began life in the Age of Apocalypse crossover X-Men event series from the 1990s. He is one ugly mother. Yeah, he's a really grotesque, horrible mutant, evil character from the parallel dimension which Apocalypse rules. And when it was announced that Hasbro was going to be doing this figure, I was really surprised because this is not a character I ever thought would see life in figure form, really. When you think about it, he's really ugly. He's not really very toyetic in terms of the design. It's not something that lends itself easily to being made as a toy. So this is something that's been made really exclusively for collectors and for fans. And for that, I have to give Hasbro top marks. And I think it's definitely a testament to just how successful the Marvel Legends line has become when you can really dig into some obscure characters like this. And I mean, you know that the line is doing well when you start considering characters like Frogman, which is quite mind-blowing that they did this. I mean, that surely can't be a bestseller. Now, the Sugar Man Build-A-Figure was part of an entire Age of Apocalypse wave, and you had to buy all 7 figures to build him. Now, for those of you who've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I sometimes take issue with this, because obviously it does mean that you're committing to spending anywhere between 120 and 150 pounds to build a figure like this. And the cynic in me thinks this is really a way of selling figures that wouldn't ordinarily sell, and there might be some truth in that. What I would say though, with this wave, I mean, I thought this was an absolute fantastic wave, and I wanted every single one of these anyway. So in a way, the Sugar Man BAF is just a bonus, and I think if you can get a wave like that where everyone's a winner and then you get a fantastic BAF as well, then that's when this model really works well. So looking at the figure then, you can see this is something that is completely different. Hasbro's never made a figure quite like this before. He's completely unique. Every part is brand new, a brand new sculpt all around, and you know, it's utterly unique, which again just makes it really stand out in the collection. It looks really interesting, really and strange and unusual. And the sculpting is brilliant. When you think about it, I mean, it feels like it's one piece really. The centerpiece obviously is the head and the upper torso there, but there is some really nice detail in there in terms of like the little badges and the little wrist straps with the painted buckles, and obviously his little rings there. And then of course the face, so in terms of like the tongue, the protruding tongue looks great, and the individual teeth are wonky. And it looks really impressive. I think it would have been cool to have made it had a bit more of a paint wash on the teeth, but other than that. But as you can see, lots of little details there in the belts and the buckles, and the paint wash around the eyes in particular, just giving that slightly darker effect. It's quite menacing and grim looking. Yeah, he's very cool. One thing I would like to point out is each hand is different. So they haven't reused any of the hands, they're all brand new sculpts, and this creates, you know, a lot more versatility in the poses. He does of course come with his Thor's hammer, his Sugar Man hammer, which, you know, is engraved, and it looks pretty nice. There's not much in terms of paint detailing on the actual handle, but otherwise, you know, the top there looks great. But overall, he's just a very impressive, bulky creature. And the sculpt is fantastic. Now, in terms of the articulation, I was initially worried that there might be some issues with these straps, but I can say that actually they're very flexible. There's a lot of give in them, and yet they're strong enough to stay in place. So there are absolutely no hindrance to the arm articulation whatsoever. In terms of the articulation, there's not much on this figure. It's mostly all in the arms. It does have obviously the bicep swivel. It's a ball jointed shoulder there, and of course his hands do rotate 360 degrees. They bend inwards 90 degrees, and there's a fantastic range of motion in the arms, and there's plenty of them. I was concerned initially. I thought, well, how's this going to work with the arms on top of each other? But amazingly, I do think Hasbro have done an incredible job of being able to make sure that they do not clash at all. So you can fully rotate the shoulder joints 360 degrees and do pretty much whatever you want with those arms without them hindering each other in terms of the movement. So you can get a lot of dynamic poses just from the arms. One issue I did have is that on the belt there's a hole there where he should be able to hold. It looks like he should be able to hold the hammer, but for the life of me I could not get this in. I tried multiple different ways, but the opening just wasn't big enough, and I really didn't want to force it open anymore. So I don't know if anyone's got any tips for getting that in there. To be honest, I want him holding it anyway, but it looks like it should go in and it just doesn't seem to. Now in terms of the legs, this is where the figure falls down, literally most of the time. With mine, I really struggled to get his legs to connect together correctly. So you can see there's a slight gap there in the right leg. Obviously there's not a great range of posability, and he is really top heavy, so there is a danger of him falling forwards, and that's happened a few times. As you can see, there is some articulation there in the legs. His legs can go, his calves can go back a little bit. There's a single jointed knee joint. He does have the pivot, the ankle pivot, and he's able to obviously move his foot backwards and forwards quite a bit actually in terms of going backwards, but you can't really pose him in any other pose because he's just going to fall over. So unless you're artificially holding him up, the leg articulation is fairly useless anyway. So in terms of scale comparison and seeing how he looks next to other figures in the collection, I've put him here with the Age of Apocalypse that was released last year. As you can see, he looks pretty good. I would actually say there the Sugar Man looks more impressive, or is more intimidating than the Apocalypse. I actually think Apocalypse looks a bit too small there, but then obviously Apocalypse does vary his size. So here he is against the Age of Apocalypse Wolverine and X-Man, and this looks great to me. I think, yeah, the scale looks accurate. Again, I think the Sugar Man really stands out as just being something completely different and really intimidating and monstrous, and yeah, I think he looks fantastic, to be honest. So in conclusion then, I have to say I have really mixed feelings about this character. It's not a character I particularly like. I don't think he's a very pleasing figure to look at, but I do admire that Hasbro made him. I think he's great in the collection just because he's so different. And there's a charm about this figure that just makes him a really welcome addition to the collection, really. And I think, especially if you're planning to buy the entire Age of Apocalypse wave and you want that look on your shelf, then you know, we know there's another wave coming later this year, and yeah, I think he's going to be, you know, one of the centerpieces of this collection, really. I think there's some issues when it comes to the articulation, in terms of the amount of poses you can get him into. It really all relies completely on the arms, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You know, I think the figure really is just a giant head with lots of arms, so I think that's kind of appropriate, to be honest. And I'm pleased that, you know, there is options to articulate the legs, even if they don't really work that well. I think maybe there could have been some more like little nip tucks to it. I think it would have been great if there'd been a bit more paint detailing, say in the vest, or in, say, the hammer, or even in the teeth and something like that. There's little areas that could have just been, you know, just touched up a little bit to make it just even more impressive. But I do think the paint wash that is there and the detailing is actually really good in this sculpt. I think it's fantastic. I'm not sure if he's entirely comic accurate. Obviously, there's a certain degree of artistic license when it comes to adapting these into figure form. But to be honest, I actually think the figure we've got is really impressive, and I actually probably prefer this design over the actual comic image. But I do appreciate that would upset some people if you particularly like this character. So yeah, for me, I think this is easily a 4-star figure. And I think if you like the Age of Apocalypse and you like the look of the figures in this wave, then you should go ahead and buy this. I don't think you'll regret having this character in your collection. I think he looks really, really cool amongst them. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as I will be posting more videos soon.